most disappointing teams so far in 2021. This is not going to be exclusively a Clemson Tigers segment because I got 3 more teams to talk about, but I'm leading with Clemson. You saw it start to play out in week 1. We were at the game in Charlotte, and they couldn't muster an offensive touchdown. They put 3 on the board total, and you looked at it, and at the time, if you wanted to be a glass half full sort of fan, you said, well, this Georgia will do that to a lot of teams. No, actually, a lot more teams have done that to Clemson. Maybe not quite to that degree, but a lot more teams have done that to Clemson. Even when they beat South Carolina State, it didn't look good. They barely beat Georgia Tech. It didn't look good. Almost got beat by Georgia Tech, needed a goal line stand. And then, of course, you got the loss at NC State. And so they just beat Boston College. They went to Syracuse and stumbled their way to a win. And it's just, there's been no point this year where they've looked impressive. No point. And now they're going to Pitt. And people are scared to bet against them because they think all of a sudden the light switch is just going to come on. I don't know how you expect it to happen. Crazier things have happened. I don't know how you expect it. Here's what I'd love to know. Dabo Swinney's been doing a lot of talking because he's been asked questions. He's not just randomly running his mouth. He's been doing a lot of talking about the transfer portal and what needs to change, what the big problems are. Everybody knows that. I don't think it's a big mystery what Clemson lacks right now. What I'd love to know is how early the Clemson staff knew they had trouble on their hands. How early? Because they sounded really confident in the preseason. And I've listened to coaches before where their level of excitement didn't quite match what the preseason magazine culture was spewing, and it's because they knew more about their team. Dabo sounded ultra confident. I think this has genuinely been a surprise to them. And I don't know that they're done losing. So at this point, it is what it is. I'm excited, or kind of interested, I guess would be the better word, to see how they handle this upcoming, not only the early signing day, but as we all know, when the season ends, transfer portal time kicks in. Think it's going to be a little different around Clemson, South Carolina. Staying in the ACC, North Carolina has got to be right behind Clemson on this list. 2021, contrary to what Mack Brown has suggested, had every reason to be circled for North Carolina. I know what his point is. Mack Brown's point has been, well, yeah, we haven't lived up to your expectation, and he's pointing to the media, and I make this point all the time. And so maybe it was you that's failed and not us. It's you. You shouldn't have expected so much from us. Well, yeah, I kind of think we should have. Even I'm saying we here. I'm lumping myself in with the casuals here. I am immersing myself in Preview Magazine culture and defending it. You returned 21 starters. You had Sam Howell coming back, a favorable schedule. There is no reason that anything less than a trip to the ACC championship game should have been expected from this team. Now pause that, because that's where most people were on North Carolina. Now imagine, as I said the other day, if we were sitting here in August, a couple of weeks before the season starts, the talking point at the time was, well, the ACC championship game, it'd be nice for them to make it there. Now that's as far as they can make it, because then they'd have to play Clemson, and of course they're not going to beat Clemson. What if I told you, friend, I just rubbed the crystal ball. I didn't see the whole season, but I saw Clemson's season. They're already going to have 2 losses before Halloween. They're going to be an underdog against Pitt. And DJ Uiagalelei is not going to be hurt. He's going to be part of that equation, and they're going to be a 2-loss team that's an underdog to Pitt. How would you have felt? How quickly would you have rushed to the window and bet North Carolina to make the playoff? I would have. I would have been that sucker. I would have. And yet, they can't get out of their own way. Miami could be on this list. North Carolina's on this list. Clemson's on this list. Everyone has looked for several years now at Clemson, and they've wondered if they ever get out of the way, which team would be ready to strike. It turns out the answer is none of them. None of them. Crippling disappointment for multiple programs in the ACC right now. What about Florida? Where are things with Florida? Left, right, up, down, no one seems to know. Where's the program? Forget just the team this year. Where's the program? I spoke my piece on my biggest concern about Florida the other night and how maybe Dan Mullen checked out a little bit last year for NFL purposes, never checked back in, but you can never really prove that. That's just a working theory. But I will tell you this, before the cocktail party next week, Georgia already has a cushion. I mean, Georgia doesn't plan on losing that game, obviously, but they can afford to lose the game and have it really still not matter as long as they take care of business the rest of the way. This is a result of Dan Mullen not making critical moves that needed to be made this past summer, this past spring. he chose to continue to ride with Todd Grantham. There is no explaining how horrifically bad and unprepared they were to play LSU last week. LSU didn't figure out how to run the ball in 4 or 5 days. Florida wasn't ready to play. And so you can put that on kids if you want to. I was listening to some of their players post-game, and credit to them because they were as diplomatic as possible in saying, we were doing what we were told, like we were executing our assignments. Now, I'm sure that it's sort of a meet-in-the-middle deal. I'm sure Florida didn't play mistake-free assignment-sound football. Obviously, that's the case. But I do think the general theme there is those players know they were unprepared. Like those players weren't put in a position to be able to execute a workable strategy. Anyway, that's one game. But as for where Florida is right now, I mean, are we kidding? They're already 3 losses before the bye week. You know that they still have other losable games coming up. I was doing radio today, and it kind of hit me that there could be something coming down the road. You see, Florida State, while their record's bad, they've been playing better football. I mean, I think it's very clear Florida State's playing as good now as they have been. You know, Florida, if they check out, don't think at all it's beneath them to lose to Florida State at the end of the year. That would trigger change. I believe that. And by change, I'm not quite sure what I mean, what kind of degree of change we're talking about. But if they've already got this resume to be forgotten, and then you tack on a loss to Florida State at the end of the year, that will be not only tough to swallow, they will refuse to ingest that down at Florida. I don't know what that means, kind of speaking cryptically on purpose, because I don't know truly how they feel internally about Mullen. I'm not a fire Mullen guy. I am a make wholesale changes guy, but I haven't taken the added step that some people have. But you and I both know there comes a point of no return sometimes. And I don't know if a loss to Florida State would be that point of no return, but I sure don't know if it wouldn't be either. Is that fence riding enough? I think it is. Last team's Wisconsin. I was high on Wisconsin, and they've let me down. It all went sideways in week 1. They played Penn State, and they won the box score, lost the game. It was one of those kinds of games. And then the Notre Dame game. They turned the ball over like half a dozen times. They lose 41-13. They led the game in the 4th quarter and lost 41-13. How do you do that? You got to try to do that. And then they -2 turnovers against Michigan. I'm not sure turnovers lost the game, 38-17. 1.3 yards per carry. Probably had a lot more to do with that. But here we are. We're already a 3-3 team. They've got to go to Purdue Saturday. I like Purdue there. They've still got Iowa on the schedule. Listen, none of these games are easy when you're playing as ineffectively and efficiently as Wisconsin is. They got to go to Rutgers. They get Northwestern, Nebraska, at Minnesota. They could have 3 or 4 more losses. This could be bad, really, really bad. And Wisconsin, I know it's off the radar a little bit. It's not a big public team. That's been a really disappointing team, too. So those are some of the most disappointing teams, most surprising teams. We'll be very interested to look at the comment section here because I think we'll have, especially for the disappointing teams, we'll have several options that maybe I didn't even get to.